During a family dinner, my daughter-in-law suddenly poured a full glass of red wine over me, screaming across the elegant restaurant, "Filthy beggar!" I just quietly nodded, said nothing, and wiped my face with a napkin. All the guests froze in shock, and the restaurant manager approached our table. What he said to her made her eyes bulge out of her head, and her face turn pale with horror. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. The banging on my bedroom door started at exactly 6 in the morning. Not a polite knock, the kind of aggressive pounding that says someone doesn't care if you're sleeping, sick, or dead. "Gordon, get up, now!" I recognized my daughter-in-law Lorna's voice immediately. That sharp, demanding tone had become as familiar as my own heartbeat over the past 6 months. I sat up slowly, my joints protesting. 67 years old, and some mornings my body reminded me of every single one of them. "I'm coming," I called out, reaching for my robe. "The maid called in sick. You need to make breakfast. The whole family. We have plans today." I opened the door to find Lorna already dressed in designer workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped impatiently against her phone case. "Actually, I have a doctor's appointment this morning," I said, keeping my voice calm. "The cardiologist. It's been scheduled for weeks." She looked at me like I'd just told her the earth was flat. "Your health problems can wait. You live here for free, Gordon. Time to earn your keep." For free? In my own house. The house I'd bought 30 years ago with money from my first restaurant. But I didn't say that. I'd learned that arguing with Lorna was like trying to reason with a hurricane. "I'll make breakfast," I said quietly. She smiled, not warmly, just satisfied, and walked away, her expensive sneakers squeaking on the hardwood floors I'd installed myself. I made my way downstairs to the kitchen. My son Carter, Lorna's husband, was already sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone. He was 39, but somehow looked younger, in the worst way possible. Not youthful, just unfinished, like a man who'd never quite figured out how to be one. "Morning, Dad," he mumbled without looking up. "Morning, son." I started pulling out ingredients. Eggs, bacon, bread for toast, coffee. I'd done this routine so many times in the past months that my hands moved on autopilot. Behind me, I heard the kids coming down, my grandchildren, Quincy and Liam, 19 and 16. They at least smiled at me. "Hey, Grandpa," Quincy said softly. "Morning, sweetheart." Lorna returned just as I was plating the first round of scrambled eggs. She sat down at the head of the table, my usual spot once upon a time, and immediately frowned. "These eggs look overcooked." I glanced at them. They were perfect, fluffy, still moist, exactly the way any reasonable person would want them. "I can make more." "The coffee's barely warm," she interrupted, touching the pot without even pouring a cup. "And are those toasts burned?" They had the slightest golden brown edge. You'd need a microscope to call them burned. Carter said nothing. He never did. Just kept his eyes on his phone like it might save him from having to acknowledge what was happening. "I'll start over," I said. Lorna stood up, grabbed her plate, and dumped the entire contents into the trash can. Eggs, bacon, toast. All of it. "Yes, you will. And this time, try not to serve us garbage, Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter. Something that had been building for months, maybe years, crystallizing into clarity. I made new eggs, new bacon, new toast. Perfect this time by anyone's standards. Lorna ate without comment, which I suppose was her version of approval. After breakfast, she tossed a folded piece of paper onto the counter beside me. "Your tasks for today. Since you're not going to the doctor anymore, you'll have plenty of time." I unfolded it. 15 items. Clean all bathrooms. Vacuum every room. Wash both cars. Organize the garage. Detail the windows. Iron Carter's shirts. Polish the silver. On and on. "Lorna's having lunch with friends," Carter said, finally speaking. Still not looking at me. "She'll be back around 4. "Right," I said. I looked at my son, really looked at him, waiting for something, an acknowledgement, an apology, a sign that somewhere inside him, the boy I'd raised still existed. He stood up and left the room. I looked down at the list again, then at the clock, then at the phone number for my cardiologist's office. knowing I'd have to reschedule. Again. And that's when it happened. That's when something inside me, something that had been bending for months, finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet snap, like a wire pulled too tight for too long. I folded the list carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I smiled. For the first time in 6 months, I had absolute clarity about what I was going to do. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Very soon. Lorna thought she was dealing with a helpless old man who'd lost his fire. She thought she could push and push and push, and I'd just keep taking it because I had nowhere else to go, nothing else to offer. She had no idea who she was actually dealing with, and that was going to make this so much more satisfying. I picked up my phone and started making a very different kind of list. Not chores, not tasks, plans. I spent the rest of that Monday working through Lorna's list like the obedient servant she clearly thought I was. Bathrooms spotless, cars gleaming, windows you could see your reflection in, every single task completed exactly as demanded. But while my hands scrubbed and polished and organized, my mind was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere much more interesting. I kept thinking about how we'd gotten here. When had it started? 6 months ago when Carter called to say they were moving in to help take care of you, Dad? Or earlier, in the small comments and dismissive looks that I'd ignored because I wanted to believe my son was better than that. 3 months back, I remembered, Carter had asked to borrow $5,000. Emergency expenses, he'd said. Car trouble and some unexpected bills. I'd given it to him without question because that's what fathers do. 2 weeks later, I'd walked past his study and overheard him on the phone with a friend, laughing about his new golf club membership. $5,000 for golf. When I'd asked him about it, he'd fumbled through an explanation about how the club was networking and important for business contacts. What business? His last 3 startup ideas had crashed and burned within months, but I'd let it go because confronting him would have meant admitting what I already knew. My son had become someone I didn't recognize. Then there was my birthday, July 15th, 67 years old. I'd woken up that morning to an empty house. Everyone had errands to run. No card, no call, no acknowledgement. That evening, when they'd returned, Carter had said, "Oh, damn, was that today? Sorry, Dad. We'll do something next year." Next year. 1 week later, they'd thrown a massive party for Lorna's birthday. Catered dinner, expensive wine, 50 guests. I'd done the math from the receipts I'd seen. Roughly $3,000 for a party, while my birthday had earned a half-hearted apology. But the worst memory, the one that kept replaying in my mind as I organized the garage that afternoon, was from 2 months ago. Lorna had invited friends over for dinner, wealthy friends, the kind she liked to impress. I'd served the meal I'd prepared, playing the role she'd assigned me without complaint. After I'd cleared the dessert plates, I'd heard her voice from the dining room. "Oh, Gordon, he's our live-in help. Free labor, if you know what I mean. Carter's father moved in after his wife died. Couldn't manage on his own, so we took him in. The least he can do is make himself useful." They'd all laughed. I'd stood in the kitchen holding a stack of dirty plates and felt something inside me wither. Now, 3 months of memories later, that withered thing was growing back. Different, harder, ready. Evening came. I finished the last task on Lorna's list and made dinner. Salmon, roasted vegetables, rice, pilaf. They ate without thanking me. Standard procedure. After dinner, as I was loading the dishwasher, Quincy appeared in the kitchen. My granddaughter, 19 years old, home from her first year of college. She had her mother's looks, but thankfully none of her personality. "Grandpa?" Her voice was quiet, uncertain. "Can we talk? In your room?" "Of course, sweetheart." We went upstairs to my small bedroom, the smallest bedroom in my own house, because Lorna had declared the master suite more appropriate for the primary couple. I'd moved into what used to be the guest room without argument. Another thing I'd let slide. Quincy closed the door and pulled out her phone. She looked scared. "I need to show you something," she said. "I wasn't snooping, I swear. Mom left her iPad on the kitchen counter yesterday and it was unlocked. And I saw messages and She was talking too fast, her hands shaking. "I took screenshots because I got scared and I didn't know what to do and Quincy, breathe." Show me. She handed me her phone. The first screenshot was a text conversation between Lorna and someone named David Chen, Coldwell Realty. Lorna: when would be the best time to list? I'm thinking as soon as possible after. David Chen: after what, if you don't mind me asking? Lorna: after my father-in-law passes. House is in his name but will go to my husband. I want everything ready to move fast. This is a seller's market. David Chen: I understand. Comparable properties in your neighborhood are listing around $825,000. After commission and fees, you'd net roughly $780,000. Lorna: perfect. Keep this confidential. He doesn't know about our plans. I felt something cold spreading through my chest, but I kept scrolling. The second screenshot was worse. A text to someone saved as Jennifer M. Lorna: can't wait until this situation resolves itself. Carter's dad is such a burden. Jennifer M. how much longer do you think? Lorna: who knows? But the more he works around the house, the better. Doctor said 3 years ago he had a heart condition. All that physical labor can't be good for him. Nature will take its course. Jennifer M. Lorna: that's dark. Lorna: I'm just being practical and honest. Natural selection, right? I read it twice, 3 times, making sure I understood correctly. My daughter-in-law was actively hoping that making me do physical labor would trigger another heart attack, and she was planning to sell my house the moment I died. Grandpa? Quincy's voice was small. I'm so sorry. I thought you should know, but I'm sorry. I looked at my granddaughter, this sweet kid who'd had the courage to show me the truth, even though it meant betraying her mother. I pulled her into a hug. You did the right thing, I said quietly. Don't apologize. And Quincy, don't tell your parents you showed me this. Not yet. Can you do that? She nodded against my shoulder. Are you okay? I will be, I said, and I meant it. After she left, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, holding her phone, looking at those screenshots. Natural selection, waiting for nature to take its course. The cold thing in my chest wasn't anger anymore. It was something clearer, sharper, determination. Lorna wanted to play a waiting game with my life? Fine. I'd play a different kind of game entirely. One she wouldn't see coming because she'd made the critical mistake of underestimating me. She thought I was just a broken-down old man with a weak heart and nowhere to go. She had no idea what I actually was, what I'd built, what I was capable of when pushed too far. I picked up my phone and sent 2 text messages. The first to Kenneth Oliver. Need to meet. Tomorrow. Usual place. Important. The second to Eleanor Bright. Time to update my will and discuss other matters. Can you see me this week? Both replied within minutes. Yes and yes. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. 6 months. That's how long I'd played the role of the helpless father, the grateful guest, the convenient servant. 6 months of swallowing my pride and my anger because I'd wanted to believe that family meant something. But family is a 2-way street, and my son and daughter-in-law had turned it into a 1-way highway, running straight over me. Time to redirect traffic. I closed my eyes and smiled in the darkness. Let the games begin. The next morning, Tuesday, September 17th, I woke up at 5:30, before the banging could start, before Lorna's demands could fill the air. I had work to do, but not the kind of work she had in mind. I went through my usual routine, made breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, started on the list of tasks she'd left the night before. To anyone watching, I was the same obedient old man I'd been for months, but I'd found my phone's voice recorder app, and every time Lorna spoke to me that day, my phone was recording from my shirt pocket. Gordon, this floor is disgusting. Did you even use cleaner or just push dirt around? Gordon, I need you to drive across town to pick up my dry cleaning. Yes, today. What else are you doing? For the love of... Why can't you do anything right? My mother was right about you. I collected it all. Every dismissive comment. Every casual cruelty. Evidence. That afternoon, while Lorna was out and Carter was in his study pretending to work on whatever fantasy business venture he was chasing this month, I photographed the daily task list she'd left. 15 items again. I photographed the previous week's list, too. I'd kept them all, filed neatly in my desk drawer. Thursday afternoon, I told Carter I needed to run errands. He barely looked up from his laptop. Sure, Dad. Whatever. I drove across Seattle to a small coffee shop in Fremont. far from any neighborhood where Lorna's friends might spot me. Kenneth Oliver was already there, sitting in a back corner booth. When he saw me walk in, he stood immediately. Kenneth had been with me since the beginning. 12 years ago, when I'd opened Cascade Heights, he'd been a young manager looking for an opportunity. I'd given him one. Now he ran my flagship restaurant like it was his own child. Gordon, he shook my hand firmly, concern written across his face. Your message sounded urgent. We sat down. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots Quincy had shared. Then I told him everything. The verbal abuse, the exploitation, the calculated cruelty. Lorna's messages about waiting for my heart to give out. Kenneth's jaw tightened as he listened. I don't even have words for that. I need to know where we stand, I said. Financially, all 7 restaurants. Complete picture. He pulled out a tablet and opened a file he'd already prepared. Always efficient, Kenneth. Total portfolio value, roughly $18 million. Net annual profit, $2.1 million. Cascade Heights alone grosses $800,000 yearly. The others are performing well. Meridian's up 15%. Saltwater's holding steady. Pike's just won another James Beard nomination. I absorbed the numbers. It had been 3 years since I'd looked at the detailed financials. 3 years of letting my managers handle everything while I... What? Grieved? Hid? Played at being someone I wasn't? I need you to do something for me, I said. Keep this completely confidential. Not even the other managers can know. Of course. There's going to be a birthday dinner. September 28th, Saturday night. Cascade Heights. Large party. Reservation under waiters. My son's booking it. Kenneth's eyebrows rose slightly. Your family's coming to Cascade Heights? My daughter-in-law's birthday. She doesn't know I own it. Neither does my son. I smiled, and something in my expression made Kenneth lean forward. She thinks I'm broke, a burden, a guest in my own home who should be grateful for scraps from their table. Jesus, Kenneth breathed. When she calls to make the reservation, treat her like any other customer. When they arrive, seat them well. Serve them impeccably. And when the moment comes, and you'll know when, I need you to be ready. Ready for what? To tell the truth. Understanding dawned in Kenneth's eyes, then something like satisfaction. Oh, this is going to be something. One more thing. The bill for that evening. Put it on my personal account automatically. Don't even present it to the table. He nodded, making notes. Consider it done. Friday morning, I had an appointment with Eleanor Bright, my attorney. Her office was downtown, 20th floor, with a view of Elliott Bay that probably cost more per month than most people's mortgages. Eleanor had handled my business affairs for 15 years. She'd also handled my wife's estate when she passed. She was sharp, thorough, and had never once let sentiment cloud her judgment. I laid it all out for her, the screenshots, the recordings, the systematic exploitation. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing colder with each detail. Gordon, she said when I finished, this is elder abuse, financial and emotional. We could pursue criminal charges. I don't want charges. I want them out of my house. And I want to change my will. Both are entirely within your rights. She pulled up documents on her computer. For the eviction, Washington state law is clear. It's your property. You can terminate their tenancy with 30 days' notice. Given the circumstances, especially these messages about your health, we can expedite if needed. 30 days is fine. I want to do this right. And the will? Current version leaves everything to Carter. I want that changed immediately. Eleanor nodded, already typing. How would you like to restructure it? The business, all 7 restaurants, the real estate, the investment accounts, goes into a trust for my grandchildren, Quincy and Liam. They'll receive it when they turn 25. Until then, Kenneth Oliver administers it with appropriate compensation. And your son, $1, symbolic inheritance, prevents him from claiming he was accidentally omitted and contesting the will. Eleanor didn't even blink. She'd seen enough family drama to know that sometimes $1 said more than $1 million. What about your house? Also to the trust. But I retain right of occupancy for life. After I'm gone, the kids can decide what to do with it. This is a substantial change, Gordon. If Carter challenges this, he won't win. Not with evidence of his wife's messages about waiting for me to die. Not with recordings of the abuse. Not with documented financial exploitation. I leaned forward. Make it bulletproof, Eleanor. I don't want any ambiguity. Give me until Monday. I'll have everything drafted, reviewed, and ready for signature. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in months. Not happy, I'd lost too much for happiness, but purposeful. Clear. That evening at dinner, Lorna was in a particularly foul mood. Apparently one of her friends had gotten a new car, and now she needed one too. Carter, we've been driving that tired old Lexus for 3 years. Everyone else has upgraded. Honey, we talked about this. The car's fine. Maybe next year. Next year? Do you know how embarrassing it is to pull up next to a 5-year-old vehicle when Sarah's driving a brand new Range Rover? I kept my eyes on my plate, said nothing, let the familiar argument wash over me, but inside I was counting down. 11 days until Saturday night. 11 days until Lorna's world changed forever. The days crawled by with excruciating slowness. I played my role perfectly, the docile father, the grateful house guest, the convenient servant. But now every insult Lorna threw at me, every dismissive gesture from Carter, just added fuel to a fire that was burning cold and steady. Monday morning, September 23rd, Lorna made her announcement at breakfast. We're having my birthday dinner Saturday night at Cascade Heights. She said it like she was announcing a moon landing. I've invited 6 couples, my real friends. That's quite a venue, I said mildly. Expensive? She shot me a look. We can afford it, Gordon. Not that it's your concern. You'll be coming too, of course. Will I? Yes, but dress appropriately. Nothing embarrassing, and sit quietly. I don't want you drawing attention. Carter was studying his coffee like it held the secrets of the universe. Anything to avoid eye contact. Who's covering the bill? I asked, knowing the answer. Carter's handling it, Lorna said quickly. Too quickly. Right, Carter mumbled. I'll take care of it. Later that afternoon, I was in the garage organizing tools, another task from Lorna's endless list, when I heard voices from the kitchen window above me. Carter and Lorna, thinking they had privacy. Just tell the waiter that Dad insists on paying, Lorna was saying. Make a whole thing about how he wanted to treat us. They'll bring him the bill. He'll have to pay it. And we look generous for even letting him come. Are you sure he has that kind of money? Dinner for 14 at Cascade Heights could be $5,000. He has it. Trust me, I've seen his bank statements. Some account with about $70,000 in it. Probably his life savings. Perfect. My life savings. Right, if they only knew. I smiled in the darkness of the garage and made a mental note. That $70,000 was from a money market account I kept for household expenses. The real money, the $18 million in business assets, the investment accounts, the property holdings, was invisible to them, as I'd intended. Wednesday, September the 25th. 2 days before Eleanor would have my new will ready. 3 days before the dinner that would change everything. I was in Lorna's walk-in closet, organizing her designer handbags after she'd had them cleaned. Apparently, I'd folded them wrong last time. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, face already twisted in anger. Seriously? How difficult is it to arrange bags? This Hermes was supposed to be stored in its dust bag. This Chanel needs to lay flat. Are you even trying? Or are you deliberately being useless? I'm sorry, I said automatically. The old response, the one I'd been giving for months. Sorry doesn't fix incompetence, Gordon. She was warming up now, her voice rising. I don't know what my husband sees in you. His own father, and you can't even complete simple tasks without screwing them up. You're like a child. No, worse. Children can learn. You're just deficient. She went on for 20 minutes. Every few sentences she'd find a new angle of attack. My age, my usefulness, my existence. Carter walked past the closet entrance once during the tirade, made eye contact with me, kept walking. That was the moment something in my expression must have changed, because Lorna suddenly stopped, mid-sentence. What are you smiling at? I hadn't even realized I was smiling, but I was. A small, quiet smile that came from somewhere deep and cold. Nothing, I said, just thinking about Saturday. It should be quite a memorable evening. For the first time in 6 months, I saw uncertainty flicker across her face. Just for a second. Then she sneered and walked away. Make sure you dress appropriately. Simple clothes. Nothing that makes you look like you're trying too hard. Don't worry, I said to her, retreating back. I'll be exactly what the occasion calls for. Friday, September 27th. Eleanor called at 10 in the morning. It's done. New will is drafted, reviewed, and notarized. You can come sign today. I told Carter I had an appointment. He didn't ask what kind, didn't care. At Eleanor's office, I read through every page. The trust structure, the administrator provisions, the symbolic dollar for Carter with explicit language about why he was receiving only that amount, the documentation appendix that included references to concerning communications regarding testator's health and estate. I signed my name 12 times. Eleanor witnessed. Her paralegal notarized. Filed with the state as of 3 p.m. today, Eleanor said. Completely legal, completely binding. You're protected, Gordon. Thank you. Are you sure about tomorrow night? You could handle this privately? No. I was very sure. She humiliated me publicly. She'll learn the truth publicly. That's justice. Eleanor nodded slowly. Then I hope it goes exactly as you've planned. That evening, Kenneth texted me. All set for tomorrow. Staff briefed. Table in VIP section. You'll be properly welcomed. I replied. Perfect. See you at 6:30. Lorna spent Friday evening trying on different dresses, recruiting Quincy to give opinions. My granddaughter caught my eye once over her mother's shoulder. There was worry there and hope. I winked at her. Saturday morning, September 28th. The day I'd been planning for 2 weeks felt like it had taken years to arrive. Lorna was in full preparation mode. Hair appointment, nail appointment, last-minute shopping. Carter was pacing nervously, probably calculating the cost of the evening in his head. I stayed out of the way. Spent the afternoon reading in my small bedroom. Waiting. At 5:30, Lorna knocked on my door. We're leaving at 6:15. You're wearing what? I showed her. Plain button-down shirt, dark jeans, simple shoes. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would draw attention. Fine. Good. Stay in the background tonight, Gordon. This is my celebration, not yours. Understood, I said. At 6:15, we loaded into Carter's car, the tired old Lexus that was somehow not good enough for Lorna's image. The drive across Seattle took 40 minutes. Quincy sat next to me in the back seat. At one point, she squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. We pulled up to Cascade Heights at exactly 6:55 p.m. Through the windshield, I could see the building I'd designed, the restaurant I'd built from nothing, the flagship of an empire that nobody in this car knew existed. Lorna checked her makeup one more time. Remember, Gordon, quiet. Don't worry, I said, opening my car door. I'll let my actions speak for themselves. And we walked inside to what would become the most expensive birthday dinner Lorna never wanted. Cascade Heights looked exactly as I remembered it. The warm lighting, the elegant stonework, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. I designed every detail of this place 12 years ago, and it still took my breath away. The hostess greeted us with a professional smile. Young, maybe 23, with the polished demeanor we trained all our front-of-house staff to maintain. Good evening. Welcome to Cascade Heights. Reservation for waiters, Carter said, his voice tight with nerves. Party of 14. Something flickered in the hostess's eyes when she heard the name. Just a split second of recognition before her professional mask slid back into place. Kenneth had briefed the staff well. Of course. Right this way, please. Lorna swept in ahead of us, her $4,000 dress swishing dramatically. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, making sure every detail was perfect for her performance tonight. Carter followed in his rented tuxedo. Rented, though he'd die before admitting that to anyone. And me? Plain button-down shirt, dark jeans, simple shoes. Exactly what Lorna had demanded I wear so I wouldn't embarrass them with pretensions. The irony was delicious. The hostess led us through the main dining room, past tables where people were spending hundreds of dollars on meals they'd remember for years, and into the VIP section, private, secluded, with its own view of the bay. Your table, she said, gesturing to a large setup that could accommodate 14 guests comfortably. Lorna's eyes lit up. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. As the other guests began arriving, I watched the familiar dance play out. Lorna's wealthy friends, or rather people she desperately wanted to impress, arrived in their expensive cars, their designer clothes, their practiced smiles. I recognized a few names. Richard Hutchins, a real estate developer, Stephanie Chen, who ran a boutique marketing firm, Jennifer Morrison, whose family money went back 3 generations. These were Lorna's aspirational circle, the people she wanted to be. They greeted her with air kisses and compliments on her dress. Some nodded politely at Carter. None of them acknowledged me at all. Lorna made sure I was seated at the far end of the table, practically behind the other guests, out of sight, out of mind, the embarrassing relative who had to be included but shouldn't be noticed. I sat down quietly and waited. The ordering began with Lorna playing the generous host. Let's start with champagne. Dom Perignon, I think. And for appetizers, we'll have the oysters, the foie gras, the caviar service. I watched Carter's face grow paler with each item she added to the order. He knew what this was going to cost. Knew they didn't have the money. Knew they were banking on sticking me with the bill. Stephanie leaned toward Lorna with wide eyes. Lorna, this is incredible. How do you manage it? This place is so expensive. Lorna waved a hand dismissively, her wineglass catching the light. Oh, we're doing very well. Carter's working on a major project. Very exciting opportunities. Carter made a sound that might have been agreement. His major project had collapsed a month ago when his investors pulled out, but Lorna needed the illusion more than she needed the truth. The first courses arrived. Oysters on ice, perfectly seared foie gras, caviar with all the traditional accompaniments. The wine flowed, a $500 bottle of Burgundy that Lorna ordered without even looking at the price. I ate quietly, observing. This was Lorna in her element, performing wealth, demanding attention, basking in the envy she imagined she was inspiring. And occasionally, when she thought the other guests weren't listening, she'd throw little comments my way. Gordon, you're being very quiet. That's good. Don't reach across like that. Use proper table manners. Sit up straight. You're slouching. Little cuts. Little reminders that in her hierarchy I ranked somewhere below the furniture. I smiled and said nothing. Around 8 o'clock, as the main courses were being cleared, Richard Hutchins, who'd been drinking steadily and growing louder with each glass, suddenly noticed me for the first time. Lorna, he said, his voice carrying across the table, I don't think we've been introduced to everyone. Who's the gentleman at the end there? The table went quiet. Several heads turned toward me. Lorna's smile turned brittle. She'd been hoping I'd remain invisible all evening. Oh, that's Gordon, Carter's father. Ah, Richard raised his glass toward me. Nice to meet you, Gordon. You must be very proud of your son. I nodded politely. Thank you. He lives with us, Lorna added, her tone shifting subtly. We take care of him. He needed assistance after his wife passed. The way she said assistance made it sound like charity, like they were saints for tolerating my presence. That's very generous of you, Jennifer said, though her expression suggested she found the whole arrangement a bit gauche. Having an elderly relative living with you wasn't exactly the image Lorna had been projecting. Well, you know how it is, Lorna continued, warming to her narrative. She was on her 3rd glass of wine now, and her filter was slipping. We couldn't just abandon family, even though it's been challenging. Challenging how? Stephanie asked, genuinely curious. Wrong question to ask Lorna when she was drunk on wine and validation. Oh, you know, he needs a lot of help around the house. Can't really manage on his own anymore. We provide everything. Housing, food, care. It's quite a responsibility. Carter shifted uncomfortably beside her, but said nothing. He never did. Lorna was just getting started. Richard, oblivious to the growing tension, pressed further. So, Gordon, you help out around the house in exchange for room and board? That's a fair arrangement. Before I could respond, Lorna laughed. A sharp, wine-loosened laugh that carried too far. Help out? That's generous. He does what he can, I suppose. We try to keep him useful. The temperature at the table shifted. Even her friends were starting to look uncomfortable. This wasn't the polished, gracious Lorna they knew. This was something else. Lorna, Carter started, but she talked over him. No, it's fine. We're all adults here. Gordon lives with us rent-free. The least he can do is earn his keep, right? Though honestly, sometimes I wonder if the help is worth the trouble. She gestured with her wineglass toward me. He's always underfoot, always needing something. I remained perfectly still, calm, waiting. Jennifer Morrison looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Lorna, maybe we feed him, house him, take care of all his needs. And what do we get? An old man who can barely manage simple tasks. It's exhausting. Richard, finally sensing he'd stumbled into something, tried to pivot the conversation. Well, I'm sure Gordon does his best. His best? Lorna stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. She was fully drunk now, all pretense abandoned. Her voice rose, commanding the room. His best is taking up space. His best is being a burden. His best is living off our generosity, while contributing nothing. The entire VIP section had gone silent. Even the waitstaff had frozen. You know what? Lorna grabbed her wineglass, still half full of deep red burgundy. Let's make a toast to honesty, to calling things what they are. She walked toward me, unsteady in her heels. Carter half rose from his seat, panic finally breaking through his usual passivity. Lorna, don't... But she was beyond listening. She stood in front of me, swaying slightly, her face flushed with wine and righteousness. A toast, she announced to the horrified room. To freeloaders. To people who take and give nothing back. To... She tipped her glass forward, and red wine splashed across my face, cold and shocking. It ran down my cheeks, stained my shirt, dripped onto my jeans. Beggars who pretend to be family. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. Even Lorna seemed shocked by what she'd just done. She stood there, empty glass in hand, breathing hard. I slowly reached for my napkin, wiped my face with deliberate care, folded the napkin neatly and set it on the table. Then I stood up, calm, composed, and I gestured to our waiter. Excuse me, could you please ask Kenneth Oliver to come to the table? The waiter's eyes widened slightly. He knew exactly who Kenneth was, and he practically ran toward the kitchen. What are you doing? Lorna hissed. The wine was beginning to clear from her system, replaced by something that looked like worry. Just requesting to speak with the manager, I said mildly. Isn't that what one does when there's been an incident? 30 seconds later, Kenneth entered the VIP section. He walked straight to our table, his expression professionally neutral, and when he reached me, he did something that made the entire room gasp. He bowed, deep and respectful. Mr. Waiters, I apologize for not greeting you when you arrived. I wasn't aware you'd be dining with us this evening. Lorna's face went white, then red, then white again. What? She stammered. Kenneth straightened and smiled at her, though the smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm Kenneth Oliver, the general manager here at Cascade Heights. Can I help you with something? You know him? Jennifer asked, pointing at me. You know Gordon? Kenneth looked genuinely confused by the question. Know him? Ma'am, I work for him. Gordon Waiters is the owner of Cascade Heights. He's the owner of all 7 of our restaurants here in Seattle. The silence that followed was absolute. I watched Lorna's face cycle through emotions. Confusion, disbelief, comprehension, horror. Richard Hutchins spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. You own this restaurant? And 6 others, yes, I said calmly. I built the first one 15 years ago. Grew the business from there. Kenneth here has been with me for 12 years. He runs Cascade Heights beautifully. But you... Lorna couldn't form complete sentences. Her brain was trying to reconcile the shabby old man she'd humiliated with the reality standing before her. You live in our house. You don't have money. I live in my house, I corrected gently. The house I bought 30 years ago. The house you've been planning to sell the moment I die, according to your messages to that realtor. David Chen, wasn't it? Carter made a choking sound. As for money, I continued, I have quite a bit, actually. The restaurant portfolio is worth roughly $18 million. Annual net profit is about $2.1 million. I've been living modestly by choice. Wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing. I looked directly at Lorna. Turns out that was very educational. Her mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Stephanie Chen stood up. I think we should go. No, please, I said. Stay. Enjoy your dinner. Kenneth, please ensure everyone's meal tonight is complimentary. Put it on my personal account. Of course, Mr. Waiters. I turned to Lorna one final time. Happy birthday, Lorna. I hope this evening has been everything you hoped for. Then I walked out of my restaurant, leaving behind a table full of people whose opinions Lorna had desperately wanted to impress, all of them now staring at her with a mixture of shock, pity, and judgment. The look on her face would stay with me for a long time. It was the exact moment she realized she'd destroyed everything. I drove home alone that night. The silence in my car felt different than the silence I'd endured for the past 6 months. This was peaceful, satisfying, the kind of quiet that comes after speaking a truth you've been holding back for too long. Behind me, I'd left chaos. Lorna trying to explain. Carter frozen in shock. 14 guests who'd witnessed the complete destruction of the image Lorna had spent years constructing. I wondered how long they'd stayed after I left, whether Lorna had tried to salvage the evening or if she'd fled in humiliation. Either way, the damage was done. My phone started ringing around 10 p.m. Carter. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, and again, 6 times before he finally gave up. The message he left was predictable. Dad, please, we need to talk. I don't understand. Please call me back. I deleted it. Sunday morning, September 29th. I slept in for the first time in months. No banging on my door, no demands for breakfast. Just sunlight filtering through my bedroom window and the distant sound of seagulls over the bay. It was glorious. Around noon, I heard the front door open, footsteps in the hallway. Carter and Lorna, returning from wherever they'd spent the night. Probably drove around for hours trying to process what had happened. I stayed in my room, reading until I heard them settling into the living room. Then I got dressed and went downstairs. They were sitting on the couch. Lorna looked like she hadn't slept. Makeup smeared, hair disheveled, still wearing that $4,000 dress that now seemed like a costume from a play that had closed badly. Carter just looked hollow. I stood in the doorway and waited for them to notice me. Dad, Carter started. You have 30 days, I said calmly, to find other housing. This is my house, and I want to live here alone. Lorna's head snapped up. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. 30 days. Washington state law is very clear on this. But we live here. Her voice was rising toward hysteria. We have rights. You have the right to 30 days' notice, which I'm giving you now. Eleanor, my attorney, has already prepared the paperwork. It'll be formally delivered tomorrow. Carter found his voice. Dad, I know last night was... I know Lorna shouldn't have... Shouldn't have what? I asked. Thrown wine in my face? Called me a beggar? Told her friends I was a burden? Which part shouldn't she have done, Carter? He had no answer. Or maybe, I continued, you mean she shouldn't have done it publicly? That it was fine when she did it privately every day for 6 months? That's not... I didn't... You didn't what? Didn't notice? Didn't care? Or just didn't have the spine to stop it? Lorna stood up, trembling with rage. You manipulative old man. You lied to us. You let us think you were poor. I never said I was poor. You assumed. Because it suited the narrative you wanted. The helpless father-in-law you were graciously taking care of. We did take care of you. I pulled out my phone. I have recordings, Lorna. Months of them. Every insult. Every demand. Every cruelty. And I have the screenshots Quincy showed me. Your messages about selling my house after I die. About how my physical labor might speed up my heart condition. Her face went white. So please, I said quietly, tell me again about how you took care of me. The fight went out of her. She sank back onto the couch, and for the first time since I'd known her, Lorna had nothing to say. 30 days, I repeated. Use them wisely. I went back upstairs and left them there. Monday, October 1st. Carter tried a different approach. He came to my room alone, knocked gently, asked if we could talk. About what? I asked through the door. Family. Dad, we're family. Doesn't that mean something? It did. Once, when family meant mutual respect and support. But you redefined it, made it mean servitude and exploitation. So no, Carter, it doesn't mean what you think it means anymore. Silence. Then quietly, what about Quincy and Liam? They're welcome here any time. This is about you and Lorna, not them. More silence. Then footsteps walking away. Tuesday, October 2nd, I got a call from Eleanor. They've hired an attorney, she said. Someone named Marcus Pemberton. Not impressed. He's mostly divorce work, but he's aggressive. What are they claiming? Oral contract for caregiving services. They're saying you promised them the house in exchange for taking care of you. They want compensation for 6 months of unpaid labor. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Unpaid labor? That's what they're calling it. I'll handle it. Between your recordings, the documentation of their actual living situation, and those screenshots about your health, they don't have a case. Pemberton knows it too. This is a Hail Mary. Good. Gordon, they're also claiming you're mentally unfit, saying you might be experiencing dementia or cognitive decline, that your decision-making is impaired. That stung more than I expected, because I won't let them exploit me anymore. Because they're desperate. Don't worry. We'll get you a cognitive evaluation. You'll pass easily, and then we'll use their false claim against them in court. Thursday, October 3rd. Lorna's last attempt. She caught me in the kitchen making coffee, tears streaming down her face. Performance of a lifetime. Gordon, please. I'm sorry. I was drunk. I was showing off. I didn't mean any of it. You know I didn't. I poured my coffee, added cream, stirred slowly. You did mean it, I said. The wine made you honest, not cruel. The cruelty was already there. No, we can fix this. We can start over. I'll be better. We'll both be better. Lorna, do you know why I built those restaurants? She blinked, confused by the change in topic. What? I built them because I love creating something good, something that brings people joy, a place where they're welcomed and valued and treated with dignity. I looked at her directly. You spent 6 months making my own home feel like the opposite of that, and you don't get to undo it with tears. But the house? Where will we go? Anywhere you can afford. There are apartments in the city. Some are quite affordable if you're willing to live within your means. Within our means? Do you know what that is? Do you know what it's like to struggle? I do, actually. I started my first restaurant with a loan and a dream, and worked 18-hour days for 3 years before it turned profitable. So yes, Lorna, I know exactly what it's like, and I know you're more than capable of learning. She stared at me, then her expression changed, hardened. You'll regret this. When you're alone in this house with no family, no one who cares? I have family, I interrupted. Quincy and Liam, Kenneth and my restaurant teams, people who actually care about me, not my assets. You and Carter aren't my family. You're people who happen to share my DNA and my address. I walked past her, coffee in hand, and left her standing in the kitchen. 25 days left. I was counting them like a prisoner counting down to freedom, which in a way I was. October 6th, Monday morning, 3 a.m. I woke to sounds downstairs. Not breaking in. I knew these sounds. Moving furniture, deliberate footsteps, doors opening and closing. They were trying to take things from the house, loading up their car in the dark, hoping I wouldn't notice. I got up, put on my robe, and went downstairs. Found Carter in the dining room, carefully wrapping my late wife's china in newspaper. Put it back, I said from the doorway. He jumped, nearly dropped a plate. Dad, I thought you were asleep. Obviously, put it back. This was Mom's. I have just as much right. You have no right. This is my house. That's my property. Put it back, or I call the police for theft. We stared at each other in the dim light. Finally, he set the plate down. When did you become this person? He asked, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. When did you become so cold? The day I realized that kindness without boundaries is just weakness waiting to be exploited. Put everything back where you found it. Then go to bed. You have 19 days left. He did as I asked, but the look he gave me, like he was seeing a stranger, that stayed with me. Good, I thought. Maybe he should see a stranger. Maybe that's what it takes to see clearly. Later that morning, Eleanor called with news. The cognitive evaluation is scheduled for tomorrow. Dr. Patricia Morrison, excellent reputation. She'll spend 3 hours testing you. Memory, reasoning, decision-making, everything. We'll have the results within a week. And then we eviscerate their case. But Gordon, there's something else. The will documentation is complete. Everything's filed. Quincy and Liam get the trust. Carter gets his $1. But you need to see him before the 30th. Tell him yourself. Why? Because if he learns it from court documents, it'll destroy any chance of future reconciliation. And despite everything, I think you want to leave that door open. Just a crack. She was right. I hated that she was right. October 8th, Wednesday. I asked Carter to meet me in my study. Private. No Lorna. He came in looking wary, defensive, like he expected another fight. I handed him the document. Read it. He did, and I watched his face change as he progressed through the pages. Confusion, then shock, then something that looked like grief. $1, he said finally. His voice was barely above a whisper. You're leaving me $1. It's standard practice. Prevents you from claiming you were accidentally omitted. Makes the will contestation-proof. The kids get $16 million in trust, and I get $1. The kids showed me love and respect. You showed me your back while your wife destroyed me. He looked up, and there were tears in his eyes. Real ones, not Lorna's performance art. I'm your son. Yes. Which makes your behavior even worse. You knew better, Carter. You were raised better. But you chose comfort over character. You chose Lorna's approval over your father's dignity. I was trying to keep my marriage together. By sacrificing your father? That's the trade you made? And you wonder why you get $1? He stood up, the document shaking in his hands. You know what? Fine. Keep your money. Keep your house. Keep everything. I don't need it. I don't need you. He started toward the door. Carter. He stopped but didn't turn around. When you're ready to be the man I raised instead of the person Lorna shaped. When you're ready to take responsibility for your choices and build something real, call me. Not for money, for respect. Earn it back. Show me you can. And if I don't, then you'll have had a father who loved you enough to let you fail, so you could learn to stand. He left without another word. October 10th, Friday. Quincy came to see me. Her eyes were red from crying. Mom told me about the will, about Dad only getting $1. Grandpa, is it true? Yes, but why? He's your son. Don't you love him? I pulled her into a hug. I love him enough to stop enabling him. The trust isn't punishment for you, sweetheart. It's protection. Money you and Liam will get when you're old enough to handle it responsibly, with education requirements and oversight, so you learn its value. But Dad has never learned that value, has never had to. I'm giving him the gift I should have given him 20 years ago, the necessity of earning his way. It's not cruelty. It's the last lesson a father can teach a son who won't listen to words. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, Mom's telling everyone you're evil? That you're a monster? I know. People Lorna's told this story to, they'll believe her version or mine based on what they already thought about situations like this. I can live with that. I'm so sorry I showed you those screenshots. If I hadn't... Quincy? I held her at arm's length, made her look at me. You did nothing wrong. You showed me the truth when I needed to see it. That took courage. Your mother's behavior is not your fault. Your father's choices are not your responsibility. You understand? She nodded, still crying. You and Liam will always have a home with me. Always. This door is open to you anytime, for any reason. You're not losing your grandfather. You're just gaining clarity about who your parents chose to be. She hugged me tighter. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart. More than you know. After she left, I sat in my study and thought about the cost of this justice. I'd won. The house was mine. The business was protected. My grandchildren were secured. But I'd lost my son. Maybe not forever. Maybe Carter would do the work, make the changes, become someone worthy of reconciliation. But maybe not. Maybe this was the price of dignity. Loneliness. The silence of a house with no one to share it. I looked out the window at the Seattle skyline, thought about my restaurants, full of people sharing meals and laughter, about Kenneth and his loyalty, about Eleanor and her wisdom, about Quincy and Liam and their futures. Not alone, I realized. Different. Selective. Surrounded by people who'd earned their place rather than demanded it by default. The phone rang. Kenneth reporting on the week's revenues. Business was good, better than good, exceptional. Thinking about coming back more actively, I told him, getting back into the day-to-day. We'd love that, Gordon. We've missed you. I've missed me too, I said, and meant it. 13 days until Carter and Lorna had to leave. 13 days until I reclaimed my home completely. I was counting them down, but not like a prisoner anymore, like someone planning a future. October 13th, moving day. I woke early and made coffee, then sat at the kitchen table watching the sunrise through the window. In a few hours, Carter and Lorna would be gone. 30 days had passed exactly as the law required. They'd found an apartment in Renton, a two-bedroom in a complex near the airport. Not terrible, but a far cry from the house they'd been living in rent-free. I'd learned this from Quincy, who'd been splitting her time between their new place and staying with friends. She refused to abandon her parents completely, but she also refused to pretend everything was normal. The moving truck arrived at 9. I stayed upstairs, giving them space to load their belongings. Through my window, I could see Carter carrying boxes, his movements slow and defeated. Lorna directed the movers with sharp gestures, her voice carrying even through closed windows. By noon, most of their things were packed. I came downstairs to find them doing a final walkthrough. Lorna saw me and stopped. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "We're almost done," Carter said quietly. "Just checking we got everything." "Take your time." Lorna's jaw tightened. She looked like she wanted to say something, probably had a dozen cutting remarks loaded and ready. But for once, she kept silent. Maybe she'd finally learned that words had consequences. Or maybe she just had nothing left to say that could hurt me anymore. As they headed toward the door with the last boxes, Lorna stopped, turned. "You destroyed our family," she said, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. "I hope you can live with that." I'd been expecting this, the last-ditch attempt to make me the villain in her story. "I didn't destroy anything, Lorna. I stopped letting you destroy me. There's a difference. That's just semantics. No, it's accountability, something you've never had to face before." She opened her mouth, closed it, then stormed out. Carter lingered in the doorway. "Dad!" "Goodbye, Carter." He nodded slowly, then followed his wife out to the truck. I watched from the window as they drove away. 33 days after that morning when Lorna had pounded on my door demanding breakfast, my house was finally mine again. The silence was profound. I spent the afternoon doing nothing, just sitting, breathing, existing in space that was truly my own for the first time in months. October 14th, Sunday. I slept until 10, unthinkable luxury. Made myself pancakes for breakfast, eating them slowly at the kitchen table while reading the news on my tablet. No one criticized my cooking. No one demanded I clean up immediately. No one needed anything from me. It was perfect. And it was lonely. I'd won. I knew that. I'd reclaimed my dignity, protected my assets, secured my grandchildren's futures. By any measure, this was victory. But victory had a price, and I was paying it in the currency of family. Around 3 p.m., Quincy texted, "Can I come over?" "Always," I replied. She arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a bag from my favorite bakery. We sat in the living room, eating croissants and drinking coffee. And for a while, we didn't talk about the elephant in the room. Finally, she said, "Dad's really struggling. He got a job, just entry-level sales, but it's something. Mom hates it, says it's beneath them." "How are you handling it?" "I'm okay. Liam's taking it harder. He doesn't understand why everything changed so fast. He thinks you hate them." "I don't hate them, sweetheart. I just can't allow them to treat me that way." "I know. I get it. It's just hard watching them fall apart." "They're not falling apart. They're learning to stand on their own. It feels like falling because they've never done it before." She was quiet for a moment. "Grandpa, are you lonely?" The question caught me off guard, not because it was intrusive, but because it was perceptive. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but lonely is better than diminished. I'll take solitude over disrespect any day." October 15th, Monday. I went back to work, real work, not just checking in, but actually managing my restaurants again. I met with Kenneth and the management team at Cascade Heights, reviewed financials, discussed expansion plans, tasted new menu items. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like myself again. "It's good to have you back," Kenneth said as we walked through the dining room after the meeting. "The team's been great, but they've missed your vision." "I've missed this. Being part of something I built, making something good. You've always been good at that. Creating spaces where people feel valued." He paused. "That's why what happened to you at home was so wrong? You deserve better." "I'm getting better now. That's what matters." October 17th, Wednesday. Carter texted, "Can we talk in person?" I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. The wound was still fresh, and I wasn't sure I was ready for whatever this conversation would bring. But Eleanor's words echoed in my mind. Leave the door open. Just a crack. Saturday, 2 p.m. My place? Thank you. I spent the next 2 days wondering if I was making a mistake, wondering if Carter would use this meeting to try guilt, manipulation, anger, wondering if I'd have the strength to hold my ground if he did. Saturday morning, I was nervous. Ridiculous at 67 being nervous about talking to my own son. But there it was. October 18th, Saturday, 2 p.m. Carter arrived exactly on time, which was notable. Punctuality had never been his strong suit. He looked different, thinner, tired, the kind of tired that comes from hard days and harder realizations. I let him in without a word, led him to the study. We sat across from each other, and for a moment the silence was heavy. Thank you for seeing me, he said finally. You're still my son, Carter. That hasn't changed. Hasn't it? His voice cracked. I saw the will. $1. That's what I'm worth to you. That's what you earned through your choices. The dollar is legal protection, not a valuation of your worth as a human being. He nodded, eyes filling with tears. I know. I know what I did. What I let happen. I was weak, Dad. I was so focused on keeping Lorna happy that I forgot about keeping myself decent. Why are you here, Carter? To apologize. Not to get the money back. I know that's gone. But to say I'm sorry. For not standing up for you. For letting her treat you like that. For being the kind of man who chooses comfort over character. I studied him, looking for signs of manipulation, of performance, but all I saw was genuine regret. I believe you're sorry, I said, but sorry isn't enough. You're 39 years old, Carter, a grown man with children of your own. You've spent your entire adult life looking for easy paths. My money, Lorna's schemes, whatever got you through without real effort. I changed the will because you needed to learn what you should have learned 20 years ago. That respect is earned, not inherited. I'm trying, Dad. I got a job. It's just sales, but it's honest work. I show up every day. I'm paying bills. That's good. That's a start. A start? He looked up, hope flickering across his face. Yes, because real change takes time. If you want a relationship with me, not the inheritance, but actual respect and connection, you'll need to show me sustained change. Years of it. I need to see you become the man I raised you to be, not the person Lorna shaped you into. What about Quincy and Liam? I smiled, couldn't help it. They get their trust when they turn 25, structured to teach them financial responsibility, with education requirements and oversight. They'll be fine, better than fine. And me? You get the chance to build something yourself, to discover what you're capable of when you can't rely on anyone else's money or status. That's the gift I'm giving you, even if it doesn't feel like one. He wiped his eyes. It doesn't feel like a gift. It's not supposed to. Growth rarely does. We sat in silence for a while. Then Carter asked, Is there any path back for us? I considered the question carefully. Maybe. If you do the work, if you show me, consistently over time, that you've changed. If you become someone who takes responsibility, who stands up for what's right, even when it's hard, then we can talk, not about money, about respect. That's all I want. Then earn it. He stood to leave, paused at the door. I love you, Dad. I know I didn't show it, but I do. I know. And Carter, I love you too. That's why I'm doing this. After he left, I stood at the window, looking out at the October afternoon. Seattle was beautiful this time of year. The leaves changing, the air crisp, the city transitioning into autumn. I thought about my late wife, about how proud she'd be that I'd finally stood up for myself, about how she'd always said that love sometimes means letting people face consequences so they can learn. I made myself coffee. No rush, no demands, no one yelling that I'd done it wrong. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet, the quiet of dignity, the quiet of a life reclaimed. My phone rang, Kenneth calling with the week's numbers. The restaurants were doing exceptionally well, better than expected. Thinking about opening an 8th location, I told him, maybe something different, more casual. I'm in. Whatever you want to build, we'll make it happen. After we hung up, I smiled. Life was continuing. Not the way I'd imagined when Carter first moved in, when I'd hoped family would fill the emptiness my wife had left, but in a way that was authentic, real, built on mutual respect rather than obligation. I'd lost a son, at least temporarily, but I'd found myself again, and that, I was learning, was worth the price. The sun was setting over Elliott Bay, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. I raised my coffee cup in a silent toast, to second chances, to dignity, to the kind of love that's brave enough to set boundaries. Respect isn't bought, I thought. It's earned every single day. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.